Plaintiff Casey Peavy says she started out casually dating the defendant because he said he was going through a divorce. But she soon discovered that the defendant was still sharing an apartment and a bed with his wife. Casey's suing her ex-boyfriend for a loan and rent. Defendant Bryce McCool says he met Casey after she answered his online ad looking for friends with benefits. And he insists he was honest about the status of his marriage from the start. Bryce claims after they started dating, Casey became extremely jealous, and she eventually kicked him out of her home.
Start with you.
I actually met Mr. McCool in January of 2014 under the pretense that he was going through a divorce.
Mr. Cool.
Ms. McCool.
Oh, McCool.
MC Cool.
All right.
That's the Irish cool, McCool.
That's Irish cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, that's Irish. You're Irish, gentleman?
Part Irish,
Okay,
yes.
well, he knows. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, I thought at that time he was going through a divorce. So we did start to see each other romantically, casually, but romantically. However, in February of 2014, I went over to his apartment and I noticed that all of his wife's belongings were in their proper places. And I also noticed a dozen roses on the kitchen table that were addressed from him to his wife. It was right after Valentine's Day. So it was about that time I started thinking, I don't think he's really going through a divorce, you know. I didn't speak up at the time because, you know, we weren't in a committed relationship, so I didn't want to seem like I was being possessive or something, so I just kept quiet. We continued to see each other occasionally for about the next year and a half, and during that time I would ask him every now and then, so are you still married, or what's the deal? And he would just kind of say, you know, well, I'm just married on paper, kind of thing. He would kind of beat around the bush. Fast forward to September of 2015, and he actually came over to my house and said that his wife had actually kicked him out and things were finally over for good. Now, within a day or two of that, he actually proposed that he and I get into a committed relationship, which I naively agreed to. So from September, we started dating officially.
Why do you say naively? Did you find out he'd never?
I didn't realize
what?
Because I didn't realize the type of man that he was, and I didn't really put the connection together that he got kicked out one day, that I probably shouldn't be his girlfriend 2 days later, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, you were kind of waiting in the wings all along.
I guess so. Yeah. I guess so. But all along with that hope, you know, that maybe it would.
And he moved in with you. I mean, what else you want? He actually ultimately did. Leave his wife or got kicked out and then came to live with you.
Well, that's what he said happened in September. He said he got kicked out.
He moved in with you, you sued him for rent, right?
Oh, yeah, that comes later. He actually didn't move in until February. So from September to February, we kept dating. And I thought he was away from his wife all that time. And in February, he did move in. And
what caused that? I mean, what were the circumstances involving him moving in? And
well, he said he said that his living situation had fallen apart again. When his wife had kicked him out, he went to live in his friend's shed, and he had been in there. He had been.
That's worse than a garage.
That's worse than the garage.
It's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. So then I think I don't know if he got kicked out or what, but he had to leave there, and so I offered him a place to stay, and he agreed to pay half my rent.
All right, let me get some background from you, sir.
Well, I met her in 2014 off of Craigslist, a personal ad I put up for Friends with Benefits, and I met her off of that.
Don't they have a married couple site, though?
They do.
Why don't you just go there instead of having to lie for 2 years?
Well, I wasn't trying. I let her know ahead of time that I was married and going through a divorce, and I was going through a divorce.
And it takes time.
Yes, it does.
Some divorces go up to 5, 6 years.
Yeah, that one was about
That's
2.
How long with 2?
Yes.
3?
Yeah.
2. 4. The higher I go, yeah.
But Your Honor, they were still sharing a bedroom all that time, so I don't believe he was going through a divorce.
I was still
beds,
trying to.
ma'am.
It was a double bed.
2 people or 1 in each bed? Trying to help you, man. You tell me, what was your deal?
Well, I did meet her off of Craigslist. She responded to my ad, and I then proceeded to, you know,
enjoy her company.
Basically, yeah. I really started to care for her.
You did begin caring for her. How long after meeting?
I would say a year. You know,
okay.
Because it was just casual at first.
Mm-hmm.
So About a year after into that, she started getting a little more wanting a committed relationship and getting a little jealous and things like that.
Jealous of your wife,
Well, because it wasn't you.
right?
Now you're gonna rub it in her face.
Well,
I thought you intended to leave for her.
I did.
Ultimately, he did leave for you, ma'am.
I guess.
All right, we'll get to the loan and the rent you're suing for.
All right.
Give me the specifics.
Well, I'm suing him for $500 for an unpaid loan. Around September of 2015, he started hinting around that he needed some money for his hobbies. He has a very expensive hobby. He flies RC planes and drones and builds RC cars and stuff like that, so he needed some money. So October 1st of 2015, I happened to have some extra money, and I did go to the ATM with him. I took out $500 and I handed it right to him. I actually brought a receipt as evidence. Here you go, Doyle.
To go fly a drone, you loaned him $500.
I handed him $500.
And he couldn't pay you rent. At what point had he stopped
Well,
paying
that was
rent?
actually before he even moved in. That was in October of 2015. He didn't move in until February, the following February. So we were just still kind of dating then.
All right, and when was he to repay it?
He agreed at the time he took the loan. He said he would pay me back $200 a month beginning in November until he was paid off in full. I have not seen $1 of that $500 yet.
I was going through a divorce.
And it takes time.
Yes. it does.
Some divorces go up to 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
But Your Honor, they were still sharing a bedroom all that time. So I don't believe he was going through a divorce.
I was
Single
still trying
beds,
to.
man.
It was a double bed.
Plaintiff Casey Peavy says when she started casually dating the defendant, she knew he was going through a divorce, but she had no idea that he was still sharing an apartment and a bed with his wife.
Tell me about the rent he owes you for.
All
What was the
right.
agreement and what happened?
All right, well, he moved into my apartment in February of 2016, and he did agree to pay half my rent because we would be, we'd both be living
How much
there.
would that be?
My rent is $695 a month. He agreed to pay $350 of that. And so he began living there in February. He did not pay rent on March 1st like he was supposed to. He actually paid it later in the middle of March. He paid $350 and gave it to me in cash. And that was the last rent he ever paid. He continued to live with me until April 17th. So he never paid April rent. That's what I'm suing for, the $350.
He did pay March?
He did pay March, it was just about 2 weeks
Did
late.
he give you notice when he moved? Or?
I actually kicked him out. We had a terrible situation. We're both dog people. We both have dogs, and I had been feeding his dog for months. He had never chipped in on dog food. Finally, after months, he said he would buy a bag of dog food. Well, days went by, no dog food came. I ran out of dog food for the dogs. They were going hungry for a few days and just eating scraps. So finally, after a few days, I said, hey, here's 20 bucks towards the dog food. Take this, go buy the dog food and bring it home, please. A couple more days went by. The dogs are starving, And he comes home that night with a bag of hot dogs and some McChicken sandwiches for the dogs. And that was it. At that point, I said, that's it, get out.
No, I think they might have preferred that. What did they do? Did you give it to them?
No.
That's unhealthy.
That's only because I came home at 10 o'clock that night and the store that had the particular food that we were trying to feed them was closed at the time. So I tried to get them something to hold them over until morning, basically.
All right. And the dogs are there and you're gone, right?
Yes.
All right. And
Back to the shed.
you're not in the shed, are you?
Not anymore.
Oh,
That
okay.
was-
Where'd you go when she put you out?
I actually started saving up and moved. So I
Oh, you moved voluntarily?
No,
All right.
no.
Because, ma'am, that was an illegal eviction, kicking them out. You can't kick anybody out. You have to get a court order telling them to move.
Well, he wasn't on the lease or anything. Does that
He
matter?
was, no, it doesn't. He was a tenant because he paid you rent
No, but he didn't pay rent.
the month before. And just because a person doesn't pay their rent, you can't kick them out immediately. If a person doesn't pay their rent, you go to landlord-tenant court. You apply to have them evicted. The judge says you can evict them and they owe this amount. You just said, get out. And if he didn't have a lease, you could give him 30-day notice to move, and then if he doesn't move, you go and have him evicted at the court. You still got to go to the court to have him evicted. You can't ever throw a person out. if it has been established that they are a tenant. That's why you are careful about letting them relatives come visit too long. On that 30th day, you better get them out. I want to come stay the summer with you. No, you can spend 29 days. Because in some states, all it takes is a 30-day residency and they become a tenant and you must go to court to get them out, whether they pay or not. And so what's your defense to both the loan and the rent?
The loan, it was my understanding that there wasn't a timeline actually put on the loan, that I would have, a considerable amount of time to be able to
What
pay
did you
it.
think?
No, that's not true, Your Honor. If I may interrupt him.
No?
I
How long
figured
do you think you could take?
4 or 5 months.
All right, and the loan occurred when?
November, I believe.
All right, and how many months has it been?
A few.
So what's your defense now? You thought there was no deadline, however, you thought you could pay it in 4 months.
Because she threw me out, and basically I had to use that whatever money I had set aside to be able to move.
And now you're in.
Yes.
So what's the excuse
I'm still not
now?
working at the moment.
How did you save money? What money did you save if you weren't working?
Just from side jobs. I'm a mobile mechanic, so I
All right,
do-
so you can still do side jobs.
Yes.
So you are working.
Sure. Yes. Sorry.
However you save money to move, use that same approach to paying her.
Your Honor, he didn't save money to move. He drove down with his friends who supported him the whole way down the road. He doesn't ever have money.
You knew that. January 14, you knew that. Don't wait
pretty
until
much.
you get in here and act appalled. You should have been appalled in January when he stayed broke.
You got that
When he
right.
went to that shed, that was a good sign.
Your Honor, he didn't save money to move. He drove down with his friends who supported him the whole way down the road. He doesn't ever have money.
You knew that. January 14, you knew that. You should have been appalled in January when he stayed broke.
You got that
When he
right.
went to that shed, that was a good sign.
Plaintiff Casey Peavy says when she started casually dating the defendant, she knew he was going through a divorce, but she had no idea that he was still sharing an apartment and a bed with his wife.
Ma'am, I'm going to give you your $500 for the unpaid loan. Do you want to pay that rent you owe her?
No, sir. I don't believe I'm entitled. Yeah.
Why?
Because I was wrongfully evicted, right?
Oh, who's the judge now?
I shouldn't have given him that defense, but out of fairness, I had to at least tell you that was an illegal eviction, and he picked up on it.
Real fast.
500 is all I can give you, ma'am. Judgment for the plaintiff. Have a good day.
Thank you. Well, you treated me really bad, Bryce. You treated me like crap. But you know I always liked you, so I'm not sure where to go now.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry about everything. I just hope things work out for you,